Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jennie. I'm on staff with the collegiate side of our church, so I hope you can forgive me when I head that way this morning to be with our collegiate service at 11 a.m. And in the fall, I was at collegiate and I was preaching like this. And for the first time in the life of our church, 37 years, there was a fire alarm during the talk. Yes, there was a fire, or at least a fire alarm. And so during kind of our evacuation period, we were standing outside of Squires, and half of my mind was thinking, what do I need to say to wrap this thing up? And the other half of my mind was thinking, if someone really wanted me to stop this talk, they could have just told me, right? You didn't have to pull a fire alarm to get us out of there. So yes, if you hear of an alarm before 12:45, maybe 12:30 today, just know we're going 2 for 2. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Well, we are in a new series called The Way. We are talking about Exodus. Last week, Robbie set the scene. The people of God are enslaved in Egypt under an empire that is set to keep the Israelites oppressed. And so today, in the midst of God's grand, unfolding narrative of redemption, we are going to drop in to a very personal level. A little baby boy, Moses, is saved by Israelite midwives. He ends up being raised in Pharaoh's household. And in the process of trying to stand up for his people, he ends up killing someone. So he has left town. He's kind of on the run. And where we'll pick up is shepherding for his father-in-law. So Moses is kind of having this identity crisis. No matter where he turns, it's like he doesn't fit in. It's as if he is thinking about just scrapping his wardrobe and trying the wide leg look, see how it looks on him, or buying a bass boat that he saw in an ad, or changing his major. Moses is looking for a little direction. So today we're going to see that God responds to Moses' wrestling. As God is unfolding this massive, cosmic, redemptive work that is going to save a nation, Moses isn't lost on God. God invites him into the narrative of the kingdom. And as we're going to see, God invites us to. God invites us to. So would you pray with me? Jesus, we are grateful that this is the kind of God that you are. And so, Lord, in all the things that we are holding and carrying, all the good things spinning around in our minds, Lord, we trust you to hold them for this service. God, we ask that our surrender would be worship to you, that our openness would make space for your Spirit to move in us as a people today. Amen. Well, a couple summers ago, the most incredible thing happened. A trip my husband Johnny and I planned overlapped with a trip some of our friends planned. And they were living in Chicago at the time, so the chance to see them was magical. It was magical. We might have a photo of my friend Addie. However, the day came to get to them, and the travel there was anything but magical. It went so badly. We were on a train that was overpacked, and maybe worse than that, it was overpacked with really grouchy people. And so we went from car to car trying to find a seat on this train. And in every car, there are a lot of people who were making sure we didn't fit in their car, right? Both kind of in a physical sense, but also perhaps relationally, right? There was a lot of cold shoulders that morning. Maybe you felt this before, that wherever you turn, you're in somebody's way. So we ended up taking the ride, which was a couple hours long, standing in the stairwell of the train. And we were there with another family who was also on the outs. And so it was a pretty small spot. It wasn't really a place meant for 4 adults and some kids to take a train ride. So we finally get off, we get up to street level, and we're looking for the Airbnb we've rented together. And kind of as we round this corner, we see our friends approaching us. And just relief swept over our bodies, right? It wasn't just this mental check mark of, oh, we found the right place, but it was this physical sense of joy and delight that even if we don't fit in the train car and we don't fit in that stairwell, that we belonged with them. We belonged with them. So why are we talking about this morning? Well, perhaps you haven't lived this specific scenario, but I imagine each of us have had a moment of feeling like, do I belong? Is this the place for someone like me? Maybe it is waiting on a friend at a coffee shop and you don't see them, and you don't see them, and you don't see them. Or fumbling with some software at work, and you're just wondering, will I ever make it in this job? Or feeling unsure if anybody in the neighborhood knows the name of that one niche board game you love. And these are the same kinds of questions Moses is wrestling with in his identity crisis. Do I belong? Is this the place for somebody like me? So Moses is going about his ordinary business, shepherding for his father-in-law. And this happens in Exodus 3. Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian. He led his flock beyond the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of a bush. He looked, and the bush was blazing, yet it was not consumed. So Moses sees this shocking thing, and he makes a decision. Then Moses said, I must turn aside and look at this great sight and see why the bush is not burned up. When the Lord saw that he had turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush, Moses, Moses. And he said, here I am. Then he said, come no closer. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. He said further, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. Moses has been looking for belonging, looking for something to help him along in his identity crisis. And God responds. God is looking for him. God has been working on this massive redemptive project, this deliverance for all of the nations. And across this wide scope of restoration, we get this personal moment with Moses. So I think we have some art up here to kind of imagine ourselves in this moment, to feel the heat of the fire. It's like God is saying, even as I'm redeeming a nation, you aren't lost on me. You belong. So Jeff Cohen, a Stanford professor, has spent decades researching this hunt for belonging. For him, belonging runs deeper than fitting in. It involves 3 messages. You are seen. Yes, there he is. You are seen, you have potential, and you are not alone here. So in jobs, people think often salary is the biggest driver of vocational happiness, but belonging is the best measure of joy at work by far. Knowing this is a place my gifts and talents can flourish. In schools, having a teacher who believes in a student's potential, it actually raises IQ scores in classrooms. And when I read that, I thought of y'all. There's so many teachers and professors here, and you are this person for so many students in the NRV. In the classroom, they found even students who might not fit in learn to rise to the top, whatever the occasion is, when they have a sense that this is a place someone like me can succeed. He has found a sense of belonging of I am seen, I have potential, and I'm not alone, is correlated with greater health, with longer lifespans. At one point, he even writes that chronic loneliness is as bad for us as smoking a pack a day. And when I read that, I thought, how do you gauge those two things off of each other? I'm not really sure of the control group there, but Jeff feels confident enough to trot it out. So I think we've all heard statistics about loneliness. More than half of Americans report feeling lonely. So maybe you're thinking, you don't need to tell me this, right? You don't need to tell Moses this as he searches for belonging. And in all Moses' wrestling, God responds. Moses has made this decision to turn toward God. And he's realized that God has turned toward him. And the same is true for us, right? You're entering next door bake shop looking for a friend. And when you see them, they're not on their phone, but their eyes are up. They're looking for you. Or maybe you're rounding the corner, perhaps in a hypothetical scenario, after a terrible train ride, and the friend you're looking for is looking for you. I am seen. I am seen. Even in this grand narrative of God restoring all things, God sees us. God sees us. The passage goes on. Then the Lord said, I have observed the misery of my people who are in Egypt. I have heard their cry on account of their taskmasters. Indeed, I know their sufferings. And I have come down to deliver them from the Egyptians, to bring them up out of that land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the country of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. The cry of the Israelites has now come to me. I've also seen how the Egyptians oppress them. God doesn't just see Moses, but he sees his people. He sees their wrestling, their abuse, and he is doing something about it. And this is a really important part of the story, where there is a way God works with us personally, but God works within us. He works within us. Moses' belonging isn't just for Moses alone. So perhaps if we were to reshape Jeff Cohen's findings into 2026 Southwestern Virginia language, maybe we would say, in the kingdom, God says, I see y'all. I recognize y'all's gifts. I am with y'all here. And Moses receives these messages not just from a professor or a boss, but from God, who's at work restoring everything. Moses belongs to a people, and God is going to deliver those people. In this splendorous, vast, unfolding narrative, God sees us. He's witnessed the ways we don't always feel like we really fit in, and he's inclined toward us. He's inclined toward us. So for Moses, hope begins to rise. There's this anticipation building. This is what he has wanted for so long. And then suddenly, a pit forms in his stomach. In verse 10. So come, I will send you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? He said, I will be with you, and this shall be the sign for you that it is I who sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall worship God on this mountain. God sees Moses' potential. Moses' belonging isn't just for Moses alone. God doesn't just stop in looking for Moses, but he recognizes his gifts. God is going to save a nation. He wants Moses to enter into this unfolding narrative that is at work. But kind of as this bush is burning in the light that's coming off of it, all of Moses' insecurities are illuminated. He's starting to do the math and realizing, oh, I am headed back to that overcrowded train car. Lord, I won't fit in. I want your kingdom to come, but don't ask me to do this. And as the chapter goes on, his hesitations multiply. In verse 13, he asks, "Who shall I say is sending me?" And then at the start of the next chapter, he asks, "What if they don't believe me?" God responds with his name, with some signs, but his heart is still racing. His stomach is knotted up. And then in verse 10, "But Moses said to the Lord, 'Oh, my Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor even now that you have spoken to your servant. But I am slow of speech and slow of tongue.'" It's like Moses is saying, "God, I don't even do this kind of thing, right? This isn't my wheelhouse. You see other people, you see their giftings. I trip on my words. This isn't my sort of thing." And in different ways, in different kind of moments, maybe these are the questions we ask too. In the glow of the burning bush, our fears, our insecurities are illuminated. A couple of weeks ago, I was eating lunch with Margaret and Kevin, who are on staff, and just casually we started talking about Lent. And in a very normal turn of conversation, Margaret asked me, "Oh, what are you thinking of giving up?" And it just bumped on something in me in that moment. Johnny and I, we have an infant, and so this season of life has been fun, and it has been magical, and it has, at times, kind of put me at the edge of myself. And so this is kind of random. A few months ago, Johnny was unloading the dishwasher, and he found the night before cleaning up for dinner, I had not just loaded plates and cups into the dishwasher, but I had put some leftover pasta from the night before just right into that utensil holder. So they went through the whole dishwashing cycle that night, and he unloaded them in the morning. And so, I'm not an expert, but I know that ain't right. That ain't right. So when Margaret asks, "What are you giving up?" in a very innocuous way, it bumps on something in me. It says, I am giving up enough here. Margaret, mind your business, okay? I'm sending pasta through the heated dry. And at the base of my frustrations is this question: if I say yes to God, what will be left of me? What if he asks too much of me? And I think it's really important to say, I'm not advocating to extend myself or anybody in ways that are chronically unwise, right? I'm not hoping to be a superhero here. But Moses' story bumps on me. When I stand in the light of the burning bush, I feel hesitant at best. Our fears are real when it comes to this stuff. So maybe you can see yourself in one of these. Maybe shepherding in the desert feels safe. To say yes to God means giving up my comfort. Or maybe you identify with Moses' uncertainty. Am I sure the Spirit is directing me this way? Do I really believe God has a plan amidst the crazy? Maybe for some of us, there are fears around the other people in our lives. You know God is doing something. You've witnessed his work in the world. But what will my family think, right? That's important for our collegiate people, but that's a hard one to graduate from. If my family doesn't understand, how will they talk about me? Or maybe more at hand, what will my coworker think? I don't want to be the weird one among my friends. So we're just going to take a second now and consider that. God sees us. He sees our potential. So what can hold you back from saying yes to God? Maybe it's something internal, something outside of yourself. So consider that. And when you're ready, share it with a partner. Sometimes we share all together. We won't do that this time around. So share with a partner. What can hold you back from saying yes to God? maybe just a moment or two longer. Well, I appreciate you just taking time to name those things, to consider what holds us back, to imagine standing in front of the burning bush, feeling the uncertainty, feeling some insecurity, and then to hear God respond. God responds to Moses and to us. When Moses asks, Lord, am I hearing you right? Are you really talking to me right now? God says, I am with you here. I am with y'all. God responds not by taking away Moses' fears or offering him a voice coach, but he responds with his presence. He responds by promising himself, I am with y'all here. I am the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob. And by that, he's saying over and over and over, I am God. I have been God, and I will be God. I will deliver my people. So Moses' belonging isn't for Moses himself alone. Moses' potential has never depended on his wardrobe or his eloquence or his bass boat. It has been utterly dependent on God, on God's presence. And so, as much as Moses is invited into this tremendous work that is going to save a nation, ultimately, the work is God's. And so when Moses pushes back, saying, Lord, I won't fit in, it's as if, in some ways, God says, you might not. You might not fit in, but you belong in the kingdom. God, in the way only God can, is using the foolish things to shame the wise and the weak things to shame the strong. And so in some upside down way, a barefoot, fumbling shepherd on the run has an invitation into God's grand unfolding story. It's like God is saying, my restoration project is in full effect. So come, take part in what I'm about to do. And so Moses can choose to go to Egypt, or he can choose to stay a shepherd. But the thing Moses can't choose is to leave the burning bush unchanged. And the same is true for us. We belong in the people of God. God says, I see y'all. NLCF, I recognize y'all's giftedness. I am with y'all here. So don't just take a seat, but come participate in what I'm doing. Say yes to my invitation. So how do we do that? How do we do that? Eugene Peterson writes, to eyes that see, every bush is a burning bush. So this week, I want us just to try something together. So I think we have another image that is very similar to the image we have had up all morning. And so in this next photo of the burning bush, perhaps, there's a change in the light source. So previously, it had kind of been illuminated by this fire. And now this one, I don't know much about art. I wish I did. I wish I knew more. But even I can tell that the light source has changed slightly. So this one is a bit more kind of a sunlight illuminating the burning bush. And I'm hoping that that will be an on-ramp for us this morning. So as your day starts in the morning, when is the first time you see the sun? When do you first see the sunlight? So for me, it's kind of when I open the back curtains in our room. We might have a few other photos of first morning light. One of our students, Kevin, yes, my view is in the center. Kevin, one of our students, that's his view on upper quad when he wakes up. So if you're willing to try, if this doesn't connect with you, there's no weirdness at all, but just go with me on this. So close your eyes and imagine yourself in that moment. You're waking up and you see the sun for the first time in the morning. And just imagine that sunlight as a burning bush, as God saying, I am with y'all here. I'm with y'all here. And so as you imagine God speaking that to you, just pick up this posture of openness like Moses, responding to God saying, here I am. Here I am. My belonging isn't for me alone. Here I am. So feel free to open your eyes and just experiment with that this week. See what happens as you notice the sun, as you imagine that first light as a burning bush. I am with y'all here. And so perhaps out of that, maybe you respond with something really simple, with doing the dishes your roommate left out the night before, cleaning up their pasta that they forgot about. Maybe it is asking a barista how their morning is going, or actually mentioning to your family that thing you're noticing God do that you've been hesitant to talk about. Just try it out. See what happens. This week, may we find belonging in the kingdom, even in moments we might not fit in. May we trust the God of this grand narrative of deliverance sees us. May we notice morning sun as light off the burning bush. Would you pray with me? God, we open our hands to you. We recognize how you have been at work, and you will be at work in our lives, Lord, in ways we can anticipate and count on. So God, we open ourselves up to you, however you might ask us to respond this week. Jesus, we come before you. We say we trust you even more than we could imagine or dream. Amen.